Dr. Emma Mitchell squinted through the magnification lens at the hull fragment before her, something about its molecular structure setting off every scientific instinct she'd developed over 15 years at the Shanghai Orbital Repair Facility. The material seemed to shift under her gaze, its surface reflecting light in ways that defied basic physics. Running another diagnostic, Marcus Webb, her assistant, asked from the doorway of the analysis lab. "That's the 5th one today. Something's not right with this ship," Emma said, adjusting the scanner settings. "Look at these readings." She gestured to the holographic display where numbers scrolled past in dizzying sequences. "The hull's atomic structure keeps changing." Marcus leaned in, his expression skeptical. "Could be a software glitch. That new quantum scanner has been acting up since installation." "No," Emma said, pulling up 3 different scan results side by side. "I've cross-referenced with every known alloy in our database. Nothing matches. And look at this." She pointed to a particular sequence. "These elements don't even exist on the periodic table." The ship in question had arrived 3 days ago, supposedly an experimental vessel from Nexus Corporation's Advanced Research Division. Emma had handled plenty of classified projects before. The Orbital Repair Facility was one of only 5 stations worldwide certified for cutting-edge prototype work. But something about this one felt different. She pulled up the ship's registration documents, studying them for the 100th time. Everything looked perfect, too perfect. The authorization codes, the technical specifications, even the insurance documentation. In 15 years of handling experimental craft, she'd never seen paperwork without a single irregularity. "Have you noticed how the security detail never leaves the ship?" Emma asked, still scrolling through the documents. "Even during active repair work, that's against standard protocol." Marcus shrugged. "It's their ship. If Nexus wants to break protocol..." A sharp chime from the scanner interrupted him. Emma's eyes widened as new data flooded the screen. The hull sample had started reacting to the steel tools they'd used during yesterday's repair work. The atomic structure was actually reaching out toward the steel, like metal filings to a magnet, but on a molecular level. "That's impossible," Marcus whispered, his previous skepticism evaporating. Emma's mind raced through the implications. A hull that could actively interact with repair materials. The applications would be revolutionary. But why would Nexus keep something like this secret instead of patent filing their way to trillions? Her terminal chimed with an incoming message, anonymous source. Most such messages were corporate espionage attempts, but this one made her blood run cold. "Some secrets are worth keeping. Keep looking." The message vanished before she could track it, the system showing no record of its existence. Emma glanced through the lab's window at the mysterious ship docked outside, its hull gleaming under the station's lights in that strange, reality-bending way. "Marcus," she said slowly, "pull up everything you can find about Nexus Corporation's research division. I want to know." Another chime cut her off, this one from the station's main alert system. "Dr. Mitchell to Docking Bay 3, Priority 1. Emma frowned. There were no scheduled arrivals for another 12 hours. She secured the whole sample in a quantum-locked container and headed for the door, her mind still processing the impossible data. "Dr. Mitchell." Marcus called after her. "What are you going to do?" She paused in the doorway, looking back at the whole sample and its reality-defying properties. "I'm going to find out what they're not telling us." She managed a small smile. "After all, that's what engineers do. We figure things out." As the door closed behind her, the whole sample in its sealed container continued its impossible dance with the steel tools, 2 types of metal reaching across space itself to touch each other. And somewhere in the facility, another message was being typed. "Second package arriving. Watch the stars." The second ship looked nothing like the first. Where the previous vessel had been sleek and silver, This one was angular and dark, its hull seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. But Emma's scanners told a different story. At the molecular level, they were identical. "Registration documents, check out," Marcus said, reviewing the holographic display. "Supposedly from Helix Dynamics, this time, not Nexus Corporation." Emma traced her fingers over the ship's surface, feeling the almost imperceptible vibration. Two different companies, saying impossible technology. Run a background check on both. While Marcus worked, Emma calibrated her experimental imaging system, a pet project she'd been developing in her off hours. The device combined traditional electron microscopy with quantum field analysis, allowing her to see things other scanners missed. "This is strange," Marcus called out. Nexus Corporation didn't exist until 3 weeks ago. Helix Dynamics, incorporated yesterday. Both have perfect paper trails, but he gestured at the data. It's like they appeared out of nowhere. Emma was only half listening. Her imaging system had detected something. Patterns in the hull surface that looked like manufacturing defects at first glance. But when she adjusted the quantum field parameters, "Marcus," she breathed. "Look at this." The defects were actually microscopic etchings, arranged in complex geometric patterns that changed when viewed at different quantum states. They weren't random. They were a language. "Those look like star charts," Marcus said, leaning in close. "But not any constellations I recognize." Emma's terminal chimed again. Another anonymous message. "Check the maintenance logs." Pattern repeats. This time, she was ready. Her system captured the message before it could vanish, though the source remained untraceable. Following the mysterious tip, she pulled up the station's maintenance records. "There," she said, pointing to a series of entries. "Every 3 months for the past 2 years, ships with similar molecular profiles have docked here. Different companies every time. All of them." "All of them what?" "All of them don't exist." She cross-referenced the dates with other repair stations worldwide. "And look, when they're not here, they're at other facilities. Singapore, Moscow, Cape Canaveral. Always the same pattern." Marcus ran his hands through his hair. "Okay, this is getting weird. Should we report it?" "To who?" Emma asked. "These ships have perfect documentation. Better than perfect. Someone very powerful wants them to go unnoticed." She turned back to the microscopic etchings, focusing her scanner on a particular sequence. The patterns shifted again, and suddenly she realized what she was looking at. "These aren't just star charts," she said. "They're coordinates, and this section here." She manipulated the display, rotating the pattern. "It's a location. Mars, specifically the abandoned mining facility in Valles Marineris." Her terminal chimed one final time. "Now you're asking the right questions. Watch for the signal." As if on cue, the hull of both ships pulsed with a faint blue light, so brief she almost missed it. The pattern of the pulse matched the geometric language in the etchings perfectly. "Dr. Mitchell." Marcus's voice was hesitant. "What do we do now?" Emma stared at the two impossible ships, their hulls still humming with that strange vibration. The mysterious messages, the shell companies, the global pattern of repairs. And now, coordinates to Mars. Someone was leaving a trail of breadcrumbs. But to what? "Book use on the next transport to Mars," she said, already planning. "Tell them it's for a routine inspection of their repair facilities. And if someone asks why." Emma smiled, thinking of the complex language hidden in manufacturing defects so small they almost didn't exist. "Tell them we're running a standard maintenance audit. After all," she gestured to the ships, "everything here looks perfect." As they left the bay, the hull samples in their lab continued their impossible dance with Earth's metals, two technologies reaching across space and time to find each other. And somewhere on Mars, Something was waiting to be found. The abandoned mining facility loomed before them in the harsh Martian sunlight, its metal structures half buried in red dust. Emma checked her environment suit's readings again as she and Marcus approached the main airlock. "Life support systems active," she muttered, frowning at her scanner. "Power signatures inside. This place isn't as abandoned as it looks." Marcus gestured to the facility's external sensors. Security systems still running too. Top of the line, but masked to look defunct. The airlock cycled open before they could even request entry. Inside, emergency lights cast long shadows through corridors that should have been dead for a decade. Their footsteps echoed on metal grating as they made their way deeper into the facility. "Welcome to the workshop," a voice called out. A woman stepped from the shadows, her environment suit bearing no corporate logos or identification. "I'm Dr. Sarah Henderson. We've been expecting you." Emma's hand tightened on her scanner. "We?" Sarah led them through a series of security checkpoints, each more sophisticated than the last, until they reached what appeared to be an ordinary maintenance bay. But when the doors opened, Emma's jaw dropped. The chamber was enormous, at least 3 times the size shown in official blueprints. Dozens of engineers worked on various projects, but it was their equipment that caught Emma's eye. Tools she'd never seen before, diagnostic systems that made her quantum scanner look like a child's toy. And there, in the center, was a ship unlike anything she'd ever seen. "That's not from Earth," Emma said. It wasn't a question. Sarah smiled. "None of them are. Welcome to the real workshop, Dr. Mitchell. We're the ones who keep the galaxy running, even if they don't want to admit it." As they walked through the facility, Sarah explained, "The aliens, multiple species, multiple civilizations, had been coming to Earth for repairs for nearly 50 years. Their technology had evolved so far beyond physical engineering that they'd lost the ability to fix things the old-fashioned way. They've got quantum computing, AI systems that boggle the mind," Sarah said, leading them past a workstation where an engineer was actually using a wrench. A simple wrench, on what looked like a piece of living metal. But when something goes wrong with the basic physical structure, they're lost. "The hull samples," Emma said, understanding dawning. "The way they reacted to our steel. Their ships are partially organic, partially quantum. They self-repair, self-adjust, self-everything. Until they don't." Sarah picked up a piece of material similar to what Emma had studied. When the basic physical structure fails, the quantum systems can't compensate. That's where we come in. "But why keep it secret?" Marcus asked. A new voice answered, deep and resonant. "Because knowledge is power, and weakness is death." Emma turned to see a man she recognized, James Chen, one of the most renowned engineers in the solar system. He'd disappeared 3 years ago, supposedly retired. "The civilizations that come to us," Chen continued, "they're advanced, powerful, proud, but they depend on us. The primitives who still know how to use a screwdriver. If their rivals knew about this weakness, it would shift the balance of power," Emma finished. "Exactly." Chen gestured around the workshop. "We're not just fixing ships. We're keeping the peace. Every repair we make prevents a potential war between species who could wipe out solar systems with a thought." Emma watched an engineer teaching what looked like a holographic entity how to perform basic maintenance. They've lost something, haven't they? In all their advancement. They've lost the understanding of how things actually work, Sarah said. They know the theory, the mathematics, the quantum mechanics, but they don't know how to fix things anymore. Not really. A alarm blared. Short, sharp, urgent. "Speaking of fixing things," Chen said, suddenly all business. "We've got an emergency coming in. Dr. Mitchell, are you ready to see what we really do here?" Emma met his gaze, then nodded. She'd come looking for answers, and found something far bigger, a hidden network keeping the galaxy's greatest secret. Now it was time to learn why human hands were so essential to advanced alien ships. Red emergency lights flooded the workshop as the massive hangar doors rumbled open. A ship materialized inside, its hull rippling like liquid mercury gone mad. Sparks of purple energy crackled along its surface, each burst causing the vessel to phase partially out of reality. "Quantum core breach," Chen shouted over the alarms. "Their containment field is failing." Emma's engineering mind kicked into high gear, already analyzing the shifting patterns of energy. Those phase fluctuations, they're getting faster. If the core goes critical, it'll take half of Mars with it, Sarah said, running toward the emergency equipment. "Standard protocols are out the window. We need direct intervention." The ship's external shell suddenly turned transparent, revealing a crew of beings that seemed to be made of living crystal and light. One of them pressed against the hull, its crystalline features twisted, in what Emma recognized as desperation, despite its alien nature. "They're going to try to evacuate," Chen said, racing to the communication console. "If they do, the auto systems will lock down, and we'll lose any chance of stopping the breach." Emma studied the energy patterns, her mind racing through everything. She learned about the alien ships, the hull. It responds to our steel, right? What if we could use that resonance to stabilize the core? Sarah's eyes widened. A physical bridge to ground, the quantum fluctuations. It's never been tried. Because it would require someone to manually install the bridge, Chen added, right next to an unstable quantum core. "I'll do it," Emma said, already moving toward the specialized repair suits. "I've studied their hull technology. I know the resonance patterns." The crystal beings inside the ship had noticed their activity. The one at the hull was making gestures, its light patterns shifting rapidly. "They're saying something," Marcus said from the communication station. "The universal translator is..." "Wait." His eyes widened. "They're speaking English." "Please," the crystal being's voice came through, harmonic and strange but perfectly understandable. "Our core. We cannot. Our systems do not understand the failure." Emma sealed her repair suit, which was unlike any environment suit she'd ever worn. It was covered in strips of pure steel alloy, positioned to maximum resonance effect. "I'm coming in," she said through the comm. "But you'll have to trust me. No automated systems, no quantum interfaces, just old-fashioned human engineering." The crystal being's light patterns pulsed in what she somehow knew was agreement. The ship's airlock opened, and Emma stepped into a world of technology so advanced it bordered on magic. The interior was a web of living light and crystal, all of it pulsing in discord with the failed core. The crystal beings moved back, their forms flickering with the same purple energy that threatened to tear their ship apart. Emma reached the core chamber, a space that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. The core itself was a sphere of pure quantum potential, its surface cracking with reality-breaking energy. "The resonance bridge," she called through the comm, pulling out strips of specially treated steel. "I need to create a physical connection between your core and our metal." She worked fast, ignoring the way space itself seemed to bend around her. The steel strips began to sing as they made contact with the alien metal, creating a harmony that she could feel in her bones. The crystal being who had spoken earlier moved closer, its voice full of wonder. "You understanding through touch, through physical connection. We have forgotten this way." The core's violent purple energy began to stabilize, the phase fluctuations slowing as the resonance bridge did its work. Emma connected the final strip, and the ship gave one last shudder before settling into normal space. She had done it. Human engineering, simple steel, and the willingness to work with their hands had just saved an alien crew and half of Mars. As the emergency lights faded, Emma looked at the crystal being. "I think," she said with a smile, "this is the beginning of a very interesting partnership." The being's light patterns shifted in what could only be agreement. "Perhaps," it said, "we have much to remember from those we thought had much to learn." The holographic display in the Mars Facilities Command Center showed hundreds of red warning signals spreading across a map of known space. Each light represented an Archean ship experiencing critical systems failure. "It's not just random malfunctions anymore," Emma said, watching as another cluster of signals appeared near the Centauri system. "Their entire fleet is starting to break down." The crystal being, who had introduced itself as Navigator XL, stood beside her, its crystalline form dimmed with what she now recognized as deep concern. "Our self-repair systems are failing across all vessels. The quantum corruption is spreading faster than predicted." Chen pulled up detailed diagnostics from the latest failed ships. "The core stabilization we performed was only a temporary fix. Whatever's causing this, it's built into the basic architecture of their technology." Emma studied the data streams, her mind racing through possibilities. The steel resonance bridge had worked on a single ship, but scaling that solution to an entire fleet seemed impossible. They needed something more fundamental. "Show me your ship's original schematics," she said to XL. "Not the quantum overlays. I want to see the basic physical structure from when your species first built them." Zell's form pulsed with confusion. "Those records, they were considered obsolete, primitive. We archived them ages ago." "That's exactly the problem," Sarah interjected, understanding where Emma was going. "You've built so many layers of quantum technology that you've lost touch with the physical foundation. It's like building a skyscraper without checking the basement." Marcus called out from his station. "New reports coming in. Life support systems are starting to fail on their colony ships. We're looking at millions of lives at risk." Emma turned to XL. "I need you to trust me. We have to strip away all the quantum interfaces, all the AI systems, everything that's been added over the centuries. We need to see the ships as they really are." The crystal being's light patterns shifted in what she'd learned was deep thought. Finally, it reached out and touched the holographic display. Ancient schematics appeared, showing the Archean ships in their original form, beautiful in their simplicity. "These were built by our ancestors," Tell said softly, "before we learned to manipulate quantum states, before we let our machines do all the work." Emma's eyes lit up as she studied the designs. "Look at this. The original hull structure was designed to work with physical forces, not fight against them. Your quantum systems are trying to override natural physics instead of working with it." She quickly began sketching out a new design, combining the original Archean engineering with modern human metal working techniques. "We need to create a hybrid system, something that uses your quantum technology, but remains grounded in physical reality. A bridge between old and new," Chen said, nodding, "but teaching their crews how to maintain it will be the real challenge," Emma finished. She looked at Cell. "Your people haven't had to learn physical skills for generations. We don't just need to fix your ships. We need to teach you how to understand them again." Zell's form brightened. Perhaps that is exactly what we need. Our children are taught to think in quantum algorithms, but they never learn to feel the pulse of their own ships." A new alert blared through the command center. Marcus's voice was tense. "Multiple ships just lost primary power in the Epsilon sector. Emergency systems are failing." Emma met Cell's crystalline gaze. "We'll need to work fast. Are you ready to learn how to use a wrench?" The crystal being's response carried both humor and determination. "I believe your human expression is ready as I'll ever be." As they rushed to begin the massive task of retraining an entire civilization, Emma couldn't help but smile at the irony. The most advanced species in known space needed to learn basic engineering from the humans they'd once considered primitive. But time was running out. Somewhere in the darkness of space, millions of lives hung in the balance, waiting for the touch of human hands to save them. The warning came through old-school Morse code, tapped out on the Mars facility's hull by micrometeorite impacts, too small to cause damage, but precise enough to carry a message. Emma recognized the pattern instantly. Hunters coming. They found us, Chen said, his face grim as he studied the long-range scanners. The Voraks just dropped out of quantum space near Jupiter. 3 vessels, heavy configuration. Emma watched the sensor display as 3 geometric shapes, perfect black cubes that seemed to devour light itself, moved through the solar system with terrifying precision. The Voraks, cybernetic beings who considered organic life an inefficiency to be corrected. How long until they reach Mars? She asked, already moving to secure their most sensitive equipment. 6 hours, Marcus called from his station. They're moving slower than usual, scanning everything. They know something's here, but not exactly what. Zell's crystalline form dimmed with worry. If they discover that we rely on human engineers, they will consider it proof that organic life is too primitive to exist. Emma thought fast. They had 30 Archean ships currently in various stages of repair throughout the solar system. Each one needed the new hybrid systems installed, and their crews needed at least basic training in physical engineering. We go dark, she decided. Shut down all quantum communications. From now on, we use physical signals only, light, sound, even primitive radio. The Voraks are so advanced, they won't think to look for technology this basic. The next hours were a blur of activity. Emma and her team worked in near silence, using hand signals and written notes to coordinate their efforts. They modified their tools to run on simple electric current instead of quantum power, making them invisible to the Voraks' advanced scanning systems. "Look at this," Sarah whispered, showing Emma a scan of the Vorak ships. Their technology is even more divorced from physical reality than the Archeans. They've completely abandoned traditional spacetime. Emma studied the readings, which means they got the same weakness. They don't understand basic physics anymore. They can't even see it. A sudden alert from the Jupiter stations cut through their discussion. The Voraks had found one of the Archean ships mid-repair, its quantum core exposed. The feed showed 3 perfect black cubes surrounding the vessel, their surfaces rippling with impossible geometries. "They'll trace the repair signature," Chen said. "They'll know it's human technology." Emma looked at the half-finished hybrid system they'd been installing. It was beautiful in its simplicity. Steel resonance bridges connected to quantum matrices, physical and digital working in perfect harmony. Everything the Voraks despised. "Maybe that's exactly what we need them to find," she said, an idea forming. "Zell, how much of your fleet has the new system installed?" The crystal bean's lights pulsed as it calculated. 23%. Not nearly enough but enough to prove a point. Emma started modifying the resonance bridge, her hands moving with practiced precision. "The Voraks think organic life is inefficient. Let's show them what happens when you combine their perfect digital logic with human intuition." She worked quickly, adding new elements to the design. The steel alloys sang under her touch, creating harmonics that the quantum sensors couldn't quite process. It was engineering as art, science as poetry. "They're starting their final approach," Marcus warned. "Whatever you're planning." Almost there. Emma made the last connection, then stepped back to admire her work. Sometimes the best way to hide something is to make it so simple your enemy can't believe it's real. As the perfect black cubes of the Vorak ships entered Mars orbit, Emma thought about everything that had led to this moment. Humans, with their primitive understanding of physical reality, had found a way to bridge the gap between the material and quantum worlds. Now they just had to prove it could work. She looked at her team, human engineers and crystal beings working side by side, each learning from the other. "Get ready," she said softly. "We're about to show the most advanced species in the galaxy the power of a good old-fashioned wrench." Emma stood in the training bay, surrounded by holographic displays of neural activity patterns. She watched as crystal beings attempted to learn basic mechanical repairs, their light patterns fluctuating with frustration. "They're thinking too much," she muttered, studying the brain wave patterns, trying to process it like quantum data instead of feeling it. Sarah looked up from her own monitors. The Vorax ships are still in orbit. Their scans are getting more focused. "We've got maybe 2 hours before they break through our low-tech camouflage." But Emma barely heard her. She was watching one of the younger crystal beings, its form still malleable and learning. Unlike its elders, it wasn't trying to calculate the perfect angle for the wrench or model of physics. It was simply copying Emma's movements, learning through mimicry. "That's it," she breathed. "We've been going about this all wrong. Marcus, pull up the human neural mapping data from the Engineering Academy." The displays shifted, showing how human brains processed new physical skills. The patterns were chaotic at first, then settled into smooth, intuitive flows. "Look at this," she said, pointing to the progression. "Humans don't learn physical skills by understanding them first. We learn by doing, by making mistakes, by feeling the way things should move." Zell's form brightened with understanding. "Our teaching methods. We try to download knowledge directly, but some things cannot be downloaded." Emma nodded, already modifying the training program. "We need to create a bridge between your quantum consciousness and physical reality. Not just for the ships, for you." She began building a new interface, using the steel resonance technology they'd developed for the ships. But this time, she added elements that would interface with the crystal being's own neural patterns. "It's like learning to dance," she explained as she worked. "You can't just download the steps. You have to feel the rhythm, let your body learn the movements." The new training system took shape, a hybrid of virtual reality and physical feedback, using resonating steel to create a direct connection between the crystal being's quantum consciousness and the physical world. "Try it now," she said to the young crystal being. "Don't think about what you're doing. Just feel how the tool wants to move." The being reached out, its form connecting with the modified interface. As it touched the physical tools, the resonance bridge created a direct neural link, bypassing its usual quantum processing. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the being's lights pulsed with sudden joy. I can feel it. The metal, the way it responds to pressure, the balance points." Other crystal beings gathered around, their forms bright with interest. One by one, they connected to the training system, learning to feel rather than calculate. "This is more than just repair training," Chen said, watching the scene. "You're teaching them how to be physical again." Emma smiled. Humans never lost touch with the physical world. Even with all our technology, we still learn best by doing. That's not a weakness. It's our greatest strength. A warning alert cut through the moment. Marcus's voice was tense. "The Vorax ships are powering up their main weapons. Whatever we're going to do, upload the training program to every Arxian ship in range," Emma commanded. "And get me a direct line to their fleet command. It's time to show the galaxy what human innovation really means." She looked at the crystal beings, now moving with growing confidence as they worked with physical tools. In just hours, they'd started to bridge a gap that had grown over centuries of pure quantum existence. "The Vorax think pure logic is the height of evolution," she said. "But real evolution is about adaptation, about finding new ways to solve problems." She picked up a wrench, feeling its solid weight. Sometimes the most advanced solution is remembering what your hands already know. The alert systems blared again as the Vorax ships began their final approach. But Emma wasn't worried anymore. They'd found something more powerful than advanced technology. They'd rediscovered the power of learning by doing, of understanding through touch and feel rather than pure data. The 3 black cube ships of the Vorax descended through the Martian atmosphere, their surfaces rippling with impossible geometries. Inside the facility, Emma watched the final pieces of her plan fall into place. Training program uploaded to 87% of the Arxian fleet, Marcus reported. The rest are too far out of range. It'll have to be enough. Emma turned to the assembly of crystal beings, their forms glowing with new confidence after their training. Remember, they'll be looking for advanced technology they won't expect. A thunderous impact shook the facility as the Vorax made their presence known. The main doors began to glow with energy as the cybernetic hunters attempted to override their simple mechanical locks. Such primitive security. A voice like digital thunder boomed through the communications system. Your reliance on physical mechanisms proves your evolutionary failure. Emma smiled. You're right about one thing, she called back. We do rely on physical mechanisms. Would you like to see why? She nodded to Excel, who sent the signal. Across the solar system, Arxian ships began to move, but not with their usual quantum grace. These movements were different, deliberate, powered by the new hybrid systems that married physical engineering with quantum technology. The Vorax ships' perfect geometries seemed to stutter as their sensors tried to process what they were seeing. Impossible. The energy signatures. They're both quantum and physical. That's the problem with pure logic, Emma said, walking toward the door. It can't handle paradox. But humans, we live in paradox. We thrive on it. The doors burst open in a flash of energy, and the Vorax entered. Their forms were beautiful and terrible. Crystalline structures that moved like liquid mathematics, each facet containing universes of computation. But Emma wasn't looking at them. She was looking at their ships through the open doorway, seeing what their perfect sensors couldn't. Microscopic stress fractures in their quantum matrices, caused by the same disconnection from physical reality that had nearly doomed the Arxians. Your ships are failing too, she said softly. You just don't know how to see it yet. The lead Vorax's form rippled with what might have been uncertainty. Our systems are perfect. We have evolved beyond the need for physical form. Perfect things break, Emma replied. But imperfect things. They learn to adapt, to grow, to fix themselves. She gestured to the crystal beings, now working confidently with their tools. The Arxians remembered this lesson. Will you? Behind her, the neural training system hummed to life, its resonance bridges creating a symphony of physical and quantum harmonics. The Vorax ships shuddered in response, their perfect geometries beginning to show flaws. What is this? The Vorax's voice had lost its thunder. This is evolution, Emma said. Not away from physical reality, but into a new understanding of it. The galaxy doesn't need perfect machines. It needs engineers, builders, fixers. She held out a simple wrench, its surface gleaming with both steel and quantum resonance. Would you like to learn? The moment stretched like crystal, like light, like the space between stars. Then, slowly, a Vorax form reached out toward the tool. Across the solar system, Arxian ships began landing at Earth's repair stations, their crews ready to learn the art of physical engineering. The secret was out, but it didn't matter anymore. Earth had found its place in the galaxy not through perfect technology, but through the simple power of understanding how things work. In the years that followed, the Mars facility became the first of many training centers where humans taught the most advanced species in the galaxy how to use their hands again. The Vorax, too, learned to bridge the gap between pure logic and physical reality, their perfect forms learning the beauty of imperfection. And Emma. She kept teaching, kept building, kept finding new ways to bridge the gap between the physical and quantum worlds. Because that was what humans did best. They adapted, they learned, and they taught others to do the same. The end.